The controversy with the state mental health department led the committee to call for an investigation last year. The investigation turned up what members of the committee called a lack of administrative leadership. One member characterized Dr. James's leadership as inept. The committee suggested that the mental health board take appropriate action. Representative Ben Brown feels that the action has not taken place.
In my opinion, appropriate action would be replacing the Commissioner of Mental Health. I could review for you the information and testimony that was given to us during our committee hearings, but I'll just remind you that we did have a lot of testimony, and to the best of my memory, there was not a single person that testified that could defend the administrative ability of Commissioner James.
But Representative Jim Barker says the problem is not Dr. James, but rather with the board he serves.
You shouldn't be after the commissioner today. If you want to be after anyone, you ought to be after the board. We're not his boss. The board is his boss, and ladies and gentlemen, the board approves of his action, or at least in the majority.
Fast-growing Edmond has been flooded with portable signs in recent years, so when city fathers tried to outlaw the advertisements, sign owners were ready to go to court. The businessmen won their first court battle, but now they're upset that the city is still trying to get rid of the billboards by citing sign owners for not having proper permits.
They're, issuing summons for people to go to court and citing them for their signs with no opportunity whatsoever to come in compliance with the law. And
do you feel that's unfair?
Oh, definitely. We're, very upset because we would like to see them acting with integrity and fairness and equally according to all signs.
The district court did not state that we could not enforce these other ordinances. They've been on the books for a long time. In fact, the judge did in fact say we have other ordinances which are imposable on portable signs. And the reason they were enforced because they're on the books.
Motion's been made and seconded to authorize the city attorney to appeal the temporary injunction to the state Supreme Court immediately. All in favor, respond to roll call vote.
Councilman Anderson.
Aye.
Councilman Stanley.
Aye.
Councilman Brown.
Aye.
Mayor.
Aye.
Tonight, the Edmond City Council voted to appeal Judge Harris's decision to the state Supreme Court. That appeal could be heard within the next few weeks. Meanwhile, Edmond sign owners will work on getting their portable billboards to comply with other existing city codes. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Edmond.
Diet red when I get through with it. I'll shake to pieces.
An Oklahoma City Police Command Post was called in to help coordinate a number of rescue workers, from police to Air Force personnel. The post instructed those helping to, above all, get the injured to hospitals first. Investigators say it will be a while before they know exactly what caused the explosion at Star Elementary School. At first it was thought a natural gas leak might be responsible, but fire officials have all but ruled out that possibility. The State Fire Marshal's Office and the Spencer Fire Department are jointly handling the investigation. Things like the direction of the blast and its force are being studied to pinpoint the source. A hot water heater was found to be one of the things blown the farthest away from the building. Those injured kitchen workers who are able to talk are telling officials the last thing they can remember before the blast. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Spencer.
The Democratic senator from Wisconsin says he isn't against the space program. He just thinks it should be administered better. He says the United States has carried the load in space and turned over the knowledge gained through great expense to other nations for free. Future ventures into space should be a cooperative effort between nations.
As Carl Sagan has said, much of the space program serves the interests of peace and of all mankind, which is a beautiful thought, but then all mankind ought to help us pay for it, especially when they can afford to. The Japanese and the Germans and the Italians and the French have gotten tremendous benefits from our discoveries and our expenditures and our research in the space program, but they paid almost nothing for it.
Save science! Save science! Save science!
But a group on campus is convinced Proxmire is the enemy of space exploration.
She voted against the Viking mission to Mars, the Voyager missions to Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, has not supported the only single mission left in the budget, the Jupiter Galileo mission. He's opposed all of our manned space flight programs, such as Apollo, Skylab, the Space Shuttle. Frankly, I don't see what he has ever supported. In fact, when weather satellites and TV satellites were in their embryonic stages in the early 60s, he opposed them. I think he just is anti-technological.
But Proxmire says he thinks the space program should go forward, but should have a watchful critic like himself to keep it on track. Ted Brown, Action 4 in Norman.
Swings with no children. In the background, a school with no students. That's the story from Star School in Spencer, where investigators are finishing up their work while cleanup crews just begin. 2 days after the fatal explosion, workers are scraping and shoveling the remains of the building, the cafeteria, and that final lunch. Fragments of the deadly water heater have been gathered and taken to the State Fire Marshal's office for examination. Experts will try to figure out why safety valves failed to release a buildup of steam in the heater, causing the pressurized tank to explode and the northwest corner of the building to cave in. The defective water heater is not the only one under examination. School maintenance men are inspecting every water heater in every public school in Oklahoma City. Under special scrutiny are 11 Republic brand heaters, the same kind that erupted Tuesday in Spencer.
We, from our inventories, found that 11 Republics were in the schools. On further checking today, found that 3 have been replaced in the last 2 years, so that means that we have 8 left. 2 teams of licensed plumbers started this morning going to the schools on a complete safety check of those hot water tanks, and that should be completed by this afternoon.
The Star School explosion raises the question, how safe are the other public schools in Oklahoma City? For example, this is Hayes Elementary School, built in 1965. This is also Hayes Elementary School, built in the 1940s, an older wing next to the brick building. We often think of safety in terms of age. The children don't seem to mind the old classroom. They probably feel as safe in the old building as the new.
The old wing of Hayes Elementary School is to be leveled and replaced by another building if a March bond issue passes. The same bond issue will close Star School in Spencer. Payson says no one person is to blame for old buildings. He says we all share the burden. Larry Otis, Action 4, Hayes Elementary School.
If you study the historical pattern of the United States, you'll find that we have these positive times, and then we have very negative times. We're going through one of the negative times. I think really how I could explain what has happened under the president, who's only been holding office for 1 year, is that the fantastic escalation of the problems in the economic and social field in this country has overwhelmed us because he has moved at such a rapid pace to decimate everything almost overnight. Under other presidents who also were holding office during critical economic times, some of the same things happened, but never at the pace in which President Reagan has moved. I think this is what has shocked the American people. This is what has the nation so overwhelmed.
It had been a quiet day at the Page Woodson Fifth-Year Center. The kids who normally go to school here were at home in observance of the Star School tragedy. But just after 3 o'clock, thick black smoke started pouring from the basement of the building. Custodian Aaron Colbert said he smelled the smoke while he was working in another part of the building. When he ran outside, he said he saw flames shooting out a window. Firefighters arrived in minutes and quickly drenched the flames that apparently started in some ductwork of an abandoned laundry room in the basement. If classes had been in session today, some serious problems might have resulted. Fire officials say evacuation proceeded, but this time no one was hurt and there was only minor damage. Mark O'Neill, Action 4, Northeast Oklahoma City.
Agricultural leaders from across the state gathered in the Student Union Auditorium at Oklahoma State University. They were there to learn more about the Oklahoma Agricultural Leadership Program. About 30 young Oklahoma farmers will be asked to join this program.
It broadens the perspective of young, committed farmers and ranchers so that they're better able to serve the interests of agriculture and the interests of the state as they move into leadership positions at the local level, state level, national level.
We're hopeful through this conference, however, that the younger generation of farmers that they're just now coming online can use this kind of an educational and leadership format in order to improve their skills and relate particularly to the urban community.
The agricultural leaders are hoping to get this program off the ground in the near future. Their aim is to develop a program that will benefit Oklahoma agriculture for years to come. Ben McCain, Action 4, at Oklahoma State University.
When Action 4 arrived at the intersection of the Northwest Expressway and MacArthur, we found a conglomerate of flashing lights. In the middle of those lights was an accident involving a police car from Warr Acres, an economy car, and a pickup truck. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol was called in to investigate the accident because a police unit was involved. Their report says that a Warr Acres police car was attempting to overtake a speeder when it entered the intersection. The car did have its emergency lights on as well as its siren. With all safety precautions on to alert oncoming traffic, the police car ran a red light. The unit then struck a pickup truck already in the intersection. The police car bounced off the truck and continued on to hit a car sitting in the left turn lane. 6 persons were taken to the hospital, 2 police officers and the drivers and passengers of the other 2 vehicles. Of those 6, 4 were treated and released. Officer Roger Patty is in fair condition at Baptist Hospital. Kathleen Wilson, a passenger in the pickup truck, is also in fair condition at Mercy Hospital. An investigation of the accident will be conducted by the Warr Acres Police Department. A report will be given to their Action Review Board to determine whether any disciplinary action will be taken. The police did not catch the speeder they were chasing. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
I'm Carol Lambert. Last night's victim here at the Gas and Go has now been identified as 70-year-old Kenneth Burdick. A full-scale investigation is underway, but so far police have no suspects or witnesses to last night's slaying. The service station, which is owned by Osage Oil and Transfer Company, was closed today. Some employees were around, however. Woody Woodring knew Kenneth Burdick and is shocked by such violence.
As far as I know, he didn't have any enemies. He liked to talk. He always talked to people.
Does the company direct you in any way how to handle a robbery situation?
To the best of our knowledge, best way we can. We don't want the operators hurt. Money's not worth it.
Police urge anyone with information concerning last night's stabbing to contact them immediately. A $5,000 cash reward is being offered in the case. Carol Lambert, Action 4 at the Oklahoma City Police Department.
Oklahoma's prisons have been the subject of hearings and court orders for so long, it's hard to think of inmates without thinking of Judge Luther Bohannon. But prison officials may have that opportunity before long, if Bohannon's latest order is any indication. It says a hearing will be held in March on the issue of whether or not the Oklahoma Department of Corrections is in substantial compliance with earlier orders, and whether the court should dismiss the case. State officials would like to see that happen, but even if the case is dismissed, that doesn't take the federal courts out of Oklahoma's prisons.
As long as there's an inmate in the system, they have civil rights, and they may go back to court and ask for the court to address whether or not they think those civil rights are being violated within a corrections system. So even if this wasn't Battle versus Anderson, it could be, Joe Smith versus Larry Meacham, just for instance, and open a whole new lawsuit. So just because, this one order may become history, does not mean that we would be out of, the realm of the federal court so far as the prisoner's constitutional rights are concerned. We're always going to have to maintain those.
The case probably won't be dismissed during the next hearing. The ACLU still wants to call witnesses on the double selling issue, but officials are optimistic that the case will be dismissed before this summer. Ted Brown, Action 4.
During the recess, I received a telephone call from Mr. Tom Cole, and I spoke with Mr. Cole. I could stand up here for... And if you will bear with me, we will do that as quickly as possible. Still have his name if you will challenge the ruling of the chair.
The flavor here is one of cooperation, unity. I think everyone here is dedicated to fielding excellent candidates in November, which is really the reason the Republican Party is organized in the first place. And I think we can really report after this meeting the Republican Party is strong, it's united, and we're going down the track towards November in a very excellent fashion.
As your altar in heaven, then as we receive from this altar, as we will pray during the prayer of the faithful, the body and blood of Jesus Christ, your only Son, our Lord.
Communist countries are supposed to be a paradise for the workers, but in the first time in history, a worker, a humble man, with a deep faith, stand against their government. And he wanted justice. He wanted that the workers would be treated like people. So all the races, all the creeds are today pulling for solidarity.
The shooting apparently stemmed from a domestic an argument of some sort in the parking lot over the female. And the shooting occurred in the parking lot, at which time the female and the suspect is alleged moved the body from the Western Corral parking lot into the car and moved to the Seminole County area.
You could point to areas where he had success and other areas where I would contend he didn't fare so well. He did a good job of getting his program through the Congress. He's to be commended for that. The larger and more important question now is, will that program work? On the plus side, inflation has come down, but the inflation rate has come down not because of an increase in productivity, but because of basically the recession. On the minus side, unemployment is up at terribly high levels, and people predict it will continue up to 10%. And I think one of the big problems that we've got to confront is this enormous federal deficit now that is predicted to go beyond $100 billion.
Ouster, Danny.
part, let's put him in the front seat, passenger side. So bright.
The subject lived alone, so as far as items taken, that's going to take a little time to determine what was taken, what's missing. As of right now, though, our strongest motive would be robbery.
The morning after is not a pleasant sight. This is what's left of the Broadway Hotel and 3 first-story businesses. Water from fire hoses has glazed into an icy monument to yesterday's flaming blaze that caused more than $1 million damage and trapped 6 victims in the second-floor hotel. All 6 male victims were burned beyond recognition. Firemen uncovered this charred wallet this morning, the ID cards to be used by the medical examiner to identify one of the bodies recovered yesterday. The building was searched again today after reports of 2 or 3 hotel residents still missing. However, authorities are now satisfied all bodies have been recovered.
The fact is at this time that we've really recovered the same number of people we started out looking for.
That number is 6. 15 others escaped the early morning fire, most running down the stairs and coming through the front door. One of those was the hotel manager, Lola Olson, who ran the boarding house for some 20 years. She returned to the rubble for the first time this morning.
And she's not holding up well. I'm taking her back to Midwest City with me. And she really hadn't comprehended, you know, just what is going on. She doesn't understand really that there were 6 people that died of this thing.
The fire reportedly began in hotel room 18 on the 2nd floor, but investigators have yet to figure out the cause.
The fire marshal and the state fire marshal have looked at the situation and said there's no possible way to determine the cause of this fire because the structure had caved in. It was an extremely hot fire. It's actually still smoldering, as you've probably seen today, and so they have ruled out any possibility of even determining what caused the fire.
State and local authorities refuse to offer any official speculation on the cause of the fire. However, a fire department spokesman told Action 4 a small mattress fire was doused about 3 weeks ago behind the hotel. And if he was forced to pinpoint the cause of yesterday's fire, it would be smoking in bed. Larry Otis, Action 4, Shawnee.
Portion of a low water cutoff device. On top here are the Mercoid B, a dual purpose low water cutoff in a position where they would not overpressure the low water.
We are trying to set up this program to inform these people of what to look for, not to try to fix. This would be a situation where an operator finds something wrong, report it. Don't try to fix it.